The first firefighter climbed the ladder without hesitation. The second disappeared into the smoke just seconds later. Then all eyes turned toward Captain Michael Hayes. 24 years of service, more than 300 lives saved, the man every rookie dreamed of becoming. But instead of running into the burning apartment building, he stopped. He looked up at the flames, pressed one hand against the radio, and quietly said 5 words that would destroy his entire career. Pull everyone back, right now, for 3 long seconds. No one moved. Then Michael shouted the order again. Every firefighter retreated. The crowd exploded with anger. People screamed from behind the police barricades. There's a family still inside. What are you doing? Go back. Someone recorded everything on a cell phone. Within hours, the video had millions of views. Television stations called him a coward. Former firefighters questioned his decision. Politicians demanded an investigation. By sunrise, America believed one thing. Captain Michael Hayes had abandoned a family trapped inside a burning building. What nobody knew was that Michael had seen something no one else could see. Something hidden behind the flames. Something that would only be revealed 34 days later. But by then, his badge would be gone, his reputation destroyed, and the truth would arrive far too late. Before we uncover what really happened inside that building, you need to understand why every firefighter in the state trusted Michael Hayes with their lives. Because without knowing the man, you'll never understand the decision that changed everything. If you enjoy emotional mysteries, inspired by extraordinary acts of courage, hidden truths, and unforgettable endings, you're in the right place. Every week we bring cinematic stories that remind us how quickly appearances can deceive us. Before we begin, tell us in the comments what city are you watching from today, and if stories like this keep you thinking long after they're over. Subscribe to the channel and join our growing community. Now, let's go back to the morning before the fire, because the disaster everyone remembers actually began with one small detail that almost everyone ignored. At 6:12 that morning, Captain Michael Hayes followed the same routine he had repeated for nearly 24 years. He parked his old pickup truck in the rear lot of Station 18, unlocked the side entrance, poured himself a cup of black coffee, and quietly walked through the apparatus bay, placing one hand on engine 18 before every shift. It wasn't superstition, it was gratitude. Every time he touched that fire engine, he reminded himself that it had brought him home after hundreds of emergencies. Most firefighters joked about it. The younger recruits smiled whenever they saw him doing it, but none of them laughed. Because everyone in the department knew Michael Hayes had earned every ounce of respect he carried. He wasn't the loudest captain, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't interested in medals or newspaper headlines. He simply had something every firefighter wanted beside them when everything went wrong: perfect judgment under impossible pressure. During his career, he had rescued children from apartment fires, pulled unconscious victims from collapsed buildings, and led dangerous rescues during floods, tornadoes, and industrial explosions. His photograph hung in the station hallway beside dozens of commendations. Yet Michael rarely looked at them. The only picture he truly cared about sat inside his locker. It showed him standing beside his late father, also a firefighter, on Michael's first day wearing the uniform. Behind the photo, his father had written one sentence: "Never confuse courage with rushing into danger. A hero's job is to bring everyone home." Michael had carried those words for 24 years. No one realized how important they would become before the day was over. The morning continued like every other shift: equipment, inspections, radio checks, training exercises, friendly jokes around the kitchen table. Everything felt ordinary, until Station 18 received an unexpected visitor. An elderly building inspector named Harold Bennett walked through the bay, carrying a thick folder under his arm. Most firefighters knew Harold. He had spent 40 years inspecting commercial buildings across the city before retiring. Even after retirement, departments occasionally asked for his opinion whenever an older structure raised concerns. Harold wasn't smiling. He asked a question that immediately caught Michael's attention. "Who's covering the Westbrook apartments today?" Michael raised his hand. "I am." Harold slowly placed the folder on the table. "I don't like that building." The room fell silent. Harold opened the folder. Inside were inspection photographs taken just 3 weeks earlier. Water damage, cracked support columns, improper electrical repairs, unauthorized renovations, hidden structural weaknesses. The building owner had promised immediate repairs. According to the paperwork, those repairs had never happened. Michael carefully studied every page. Then he noticed something that made him stop turning the pages. One photograph showed a steel support beam inside the attic. It had been severely weakened by years of corrosion. Harold quietly pointed to it. "If fire reaches this section, the roof won't fail the way firefighters expect." Michael looked up. "What do you mean?" Harold took a deep breath. "It won't collapse downward. It will peel forward, like a wave. If crews are standing on the east side, they'll have nowhere to run." The kitchen suddenly became very quiet. Several firefighters exchanged nervous glances. Michael folded the inspection report and thanked Harold for bringing it personally. As the inspector walked toward the exit, he turned around one last time. "I hope you never have to remember anything I told you today." Michael watched him leave. For reasons he couldn't explain, he slipped the inspection photographs into his turnout gear instead of leaving them on the table. At exactly 11:43 a.m., the station alarm shattered the silence. Engine 18, 老大六, Battalion R, respond to a reported structure fire at Westbrook Apartments. Multiple occupants trapped. Every firefighter froze for only a fraction of a second. Michael's eyes immediately met the inspection folder, still lying open on the table. The same building, the same weakened roof, the same warning. As sirens echoed through the city, Engine 18 sped toward Westbrook Apartments. None of the firefighters knew that, before the next hour ended, one decision would cost Michael Hayes everything he had spent 24 years building. And somewhere inside the smoke, a detail almost invisible to everyone else was already waiting for him. The first thing Michael noticed wasn't the fire. It was the silence. Apartment fires were never quiet. People screamed. Windows shattered. Smoke alarms echoed through the hallways. But as Engine 18 turned onto Westbrook Avenue, something felt wrong. The flames were enormous. Thick black smoke poured from the upper floors. Dozens of terrified residents stood outside, wrapped in blankets. Police officers struggled to push the growing crowd behind the barricades. Yet Michael couldn't hear what he expected. No explosions, no collapsing windows, no frantic voices coming from inside. He stepped out of the engine and immediately scanned the building. Years of experience had told him that fires always told a story. Most people saw flames. Firefighters read behavior, the smoke, the color, the speed, the direction of the heat. Every detail revealed something. Battalion Chief Laura Simmons hurried toward him. Third floor, family of 4. Neighbors say they never came out. Michael nodded without speaking. He looked at the roof, then at the east wall, then back toward the attic windows. His heartbeat slowed, not from fear, from concentration. Ladder 6 had already begun extending its aerial ladder. Firefighters connected supply lines to nearby hydrants. Paramedics prepared triage equipment. Everything happened exactly as it had hundreds of times before, except for one detail. The smoke leaving the attic wasn't rising naturally. It pulsed, short bursts, almost like breathing. Michael frowned. He had seen that only once before. 17 years earlier, an abandoned warehouse fire. The roof had failed without warning. 3 firefighters died before anyone understood what had happened. The memory returned instantly. The same strange rhythm, the same heavy smoke, the same unnatural pressure trapped beneath the roof. Michael quietly reached inside his turnout coat. He removed Harold Bennett's inspection photographs. His eyes stopped on the image of the corroded steel beam. Then he looked back at the building. The fire had reached exactly that section. His radio crackled. Captain Hayes. Ladder 6 is ready for interior operations. Michael didn't answer immediately. He watched the roof. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 then. He noticed something almost invisible. A brick near the roofline shifted outward, less than an inch. No civilian noticed. No television camera captured it. Most firefighters wouldn't have seen it either, but Michael did, because he knew exactly where to look. His stomach tightened. He suddenly understood what was about to happen. The roof wasn't preparing to collapse. It was preparing to roll forward, like a giant wave of concrete and steel, directly toward the crews assembling below, and toward hundreds of civilians standing behind the barricades. At that exact moment, a desperate woman broke through the police line. "My children? They're still inside." The crowd erupted. Several firefighters instinctively stepped toward the entrance. Michael's mind raced. Every instinct told him to go. Everything he had trained for, everything he believed as a firefighter, screamed at him to run into that building. Then he remembered his father's words. The hero's job is to bring everyone home. He looked once more at the shifting roof. There wasn't time to explain. There wasn't time to convince anyone. There was only time to decide. Michael grabbed his radio. His voice was calm, almost unnaturally calm. Command from Engine 18. A pause. Then the order that would soon be broadcast across every television station in America. Pull everyone back. Nobody moved. Some firefighters thought they had misunderstood. Others simply froze. Michael repeated himself. Louder. Pull everyone back. The battalion chief stared at him in disbelief. "Captain, there are people trapped." Michael never took his eyes off the roof. "I know. Withdraw everyone. Now." Confusion spread through the command post. Television reporters zoomed in. Dozens of smartphones pointed directly at Michael. Some civilians began shouting. Others cursed him. One man screamed loud enough for every camera to capture it. "You're letting them die." Michael didn't respond. He simply raised one arm, ordering every firefighter away from the building. Some obeyed immediately. Others hesitated. Those few seconds would later become the most debated moments of his career. Then, the world exploded. A deafening metallic roar echoed across Westbrook Avenue. The entire eastern roofline didn't collapse downward. It peeled outward exactly as Harold Bennett had warned. Thousands of pounds of burning steel, concrete, bricks, and timber crashed onto the exact location where firefighters had been standing only moments earlier. Fire engines shook from the impact. Police officers threw themselves to the ground. News helicopters pulled away as massive clouds of smoke swallowed the street. People screamed. Cars disappeared beneath falling debris. For nearly 20 seconds, no one could see anything. When the dust finally began to settle, an eerie silence covered the entire block. Everyone stared at the mountain of rubble. Had Michael just saved dozens of firefighters, or had he condemned the family trapped inside? No one knew, not yet. But one television camera had captured something else. Just 1 second before the collapse, Michael had looked toward a small apartment window on the 3rd floor. His expression changed completely, as if he had seen someone no one else had noticed. And whatever he saw would become the key to everything that happened next. For the next 48 hours, America believed it had already reached its verdict. Every news channel replayed the same 23 seconds, the moment Captain Michael Hayes ordered every firefighter to retreat, the desperate mother screaming for her children, the crowd calling him a coward, and finally, the collapse. The headlines were merciless. Captain abandoned his family during apartment fire. Did fear cost for innocent lives? Hero or coward? The internet had already made up its mind. Millions of comments, thousands of reaction videos. Former firefighters debated his decision on national television. People who had never worn a helmet confidently explained what Michael should have done. His 24 years of service reduced to 23 seconds. 3 days later, Michael turned in his badge. No ceremony, no farewell. He quietly emptied his locker while the station remained unusually silent. No one knew what to say. Some firefighters avoided looking at him. Others wanted to defend him. But the investigation had barely begun. Lieutenant Daniel Ortiz finally walked over. He had served beside Michael for nearly 15 years. If you tell me there was a reason, I'll believe you. Michael looked at his friend. There were dark circles beneath his eyes. He looked 10 years older. I can't tell you. Daniel frowned. You can't or you won't. Michael carefully placed his father's photograph into a cardboard box. Both that answer hurt more than any accusation, as Michael walked out of Station 18 for what he believed was the last time. Every firefighter in the bay stood silently watching. Not one of them saluted, not because they had lost respect, because none of them knew whether they still should. Meanwhile, investigators searched through the ruins of Westbrook Apartments. The official death toll stunned everyone. Only one victim had been found, an elderly maintenance worker who had already been unconscious before the collapse. The family everyone believed had been trapped inside was nowhere to be found. The media immediately questioned the reports. Had rescuers searched the wrong apartments? Were bodies still buried beneath the rubble? Then an unexpected discovery changed everything. Security footage from a grocery store across the street showed the mother leaving the building almost 9 minutes before firefighters arrived. Her 2 children were with her. So was her husband. The family had escaped safely. In the panic, neighbors had assumed they were still inside. That misunderstanding spread through the crowd, then across national television. Yet Michael still refused to explain his decision, which only made people more suspicious. If the family wasn't inside, why had he looked toward the 3rd floor window just before ordering everyone back? What had he seen? The investigation continued. Structural engineers confirmed something astonishing. Harold Bennett's warning had been exactly right. The roof had failed in a way almost no one predicted. If firefighters had entered when originally planned, more than 20 emergency responders would almost certainly have been trapped beneath thousands of tons of burning debris. Michael had prevented one catastrophe, but there was still another mystery. The look on his face, the window, the body cam. Until then, the department had refused to release any body camera footage while the investigation remained active. Public pressure intensified. Television hosts demanded transparency. Families of firefighters wanted answers. Even members of the city council began asking why the recordings remained sealed. 34 days after the fire, the investigation board voted unanimously. The footage would finally be released. Not only Michael's camera, but every body camera worn by firefighters that day. On the morning of the release, news crews gathered outside fire department headquarters before sunrise. The live stream attracted millions of viewers. Michael wasn't there. He had quietly returned to the small cabin his father once owned, beside a mountain lake, 3 hours from the city. He turned off his phone, locked the front door, and sat alone on the old wooden dock. For the first time in weeks, there were no cameras, no reporters, no accusations, only silence. Back in the city, the video began. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Firefighters advancing, smoke growing thicker, commands over the radio. Then the recording reached the moment everyone had been waiting for. Just before Michael gave the order to retreat, his helmet camera tilted upward, toward the 3rd floor apartment window. The image was blurred by smoke. Investigators slowed the footage frame by frame. The crowd watching the live stream leaned closer. For several seconds, nothing. Then, a tiny movement behind the broken glass. Not a person, not a child, something else. Something swinging back and forth from the ceiling. The engineers watching immediately stood up. One of them whispered words that instantly changed the room. My God, that's a tension key. The entire room froze. The bodycam had captured something no one on the street could have seen. A massive steel support cable, normally hidden inside the roof structure, was hanging completely exposed. And it wasn't steel, it was stretching, slowly, silently, like a rope about to snap. Every structural engineer in the room recognized what it meant. The collapse wasn't minutes away, it was seconds away. Michael hadn't guessed, he hadn't panicked. He had read the building exactly as it was failing. But the footage wasn't over, not even close. Because, just 2 seconds later, the camera captured one final detail. A faint voice, barely audible, beneath the roar of the fire. It came through Michael's radio headset, a voice no one expected to hear. And when investigators enhanced the audio, every person in the room stared at one another in complete disbelief. The voice belonged to someone who was officially supposed to be dead. For a moment, no one inside the investigation room breathed. The enhanced audio played again, then again. The technicians increased the volume, removed static, filtered the interference caused by the flames. This time, everyone heard it clearly. A man's voice, weak, calm, almost whispering, "Captain, don't come in." Silence filled the room. The lead investigator immediately looked toward Battalion Chief Laura Simmons. "Who was that?" She slowly shook her head. "I don't know." The recording continued. "The building? It's gone. Get your people back then." Nothing. Only the roar of the fire. One of the structural engineers spoke first. Whoever that man was, he understood the building was already collapsing. The investigators immediately compared the voice with every firefighter on scene. No match. They compared it with the maintenance worker who had died. No match. The trapped family's voices. No match. No one could identify the speaker, yet Michael had heard him. That much was obvious, because less than 2 seconds later, he gave the order that saved every firefighter outside. The mystery had suddenly become much larger. This wasn't just about a controversial command anymore. Someone inside the building had warned Michael. But who? And how? The investigation took an unexpected turn. Detectives began examining every emergency call made before firefighters arrived. Dozens of frightened residents had called 911. Most lasted only seconds. People screaming, crying, giving apartment numbers. Then, one call stood out. It had been disconnected after only 11 seconds. The caller never gave a name, never gave an apartment number. The recording began. Heavy breathing, smoke alarms, crackling fire. Then, the exact same voice. "Tell the captain, the roof is gone. Don't let them come inside." The line went dead. The dispatcher immediately attempted to call back. No answer. Investigators traced the phone. It belonged to Frank Delaney, the building's chief maintenance supervisor. Everyone exchanged confused looks. Frank Delaney had officially died 8 years earlier. His death certificate was quickly retrieved. Heart attack, age 68, buried in the city's memorial cemetery. So why? Was his cell phone making a 911 call from inside a burning building? The room erupted with questions until one detective quietly noticed something. The phone number. It's not active anymore. A telecommunications specialist dug deeper, then smiled. "It's impossible." "What?" "The call didn't come from the phone. It came from the building's emergency communication system." The room fell silent again. Westbrook Apartments had once used an old internal maintenance radio network. Years before smartphones became common, maintenance workers carried handheld radios connected to emergency wall stations installed throughout the building. One emergency station, located inside the attic maintenance corridor, was somehow still functioning. That explained the transmission, but not the voice who had spoken into it. Investigators returned to the bodycam footage. This time, they synchronized every available recording. Michael's camera, helmet cameras from Ladder 6, police bodycams, traffic cameras, news helicopters, drone footage, even cell phone videos uploaded to social media. For nearly 12 hours, editors synchronized every second. Then, they discovered something astonishing. Exactly 4 seconds before Michael ordered everyone back, a shadow crossed the attic window. Not flames, not smoke, a human silhouette. The figure remained visible for less than 1 second, then disappeared forever. Every investigator leaned closer. The image was enhanced, still blurry, enhanced again. A helmet, protective jacket, reflective stripes. It looked like a firefighter, but no firefighter had entered the building yet. Every accountability log confirmed it. No crews had crossed the entrance. So who was inside? The city reopened every employment record connected to Westbrook Apartments. Former workers, contractors, inspectors, electricians, maintenance crews. One name immediately stood out. Thomas Delaney, Frank Delaney's son, volunteer firefighter, structural engineer, declared missing. 23 years earlier, he had disappeared while inspecting an abandoned warehouse after a chemical explosion. No body had ever been recovered. The official report concluded he had died inside the collapse. Michael stared silently at the old photograph. Investigators later showed him. His hands began to tremble. "I know him." Everyone turned. "You've seen him before?" Michael nodded slowly. 23 years ago, I was a rookie. It was my first major collapse. He swallowed hard. Thomas Delaney pulled me out. The room became completely silent. Michael continued. He pushed me clear and disappeared before the roof came down. They never found him. Investigators looked back at the enhanced silhouette. Same height, same helmet style, same reflective markings used 23 years earlier. No one dared say what everyone was thinking because there had to be another explanation. There always was. Days later, a forgotten storage room beneath Westbrook Apartments was finally opened after engineers declared it safe, covered in dust. Investigators found dozens of old maintenance records, blueprints, inspection reports, emergency radio manuals. Then, inside a rusted metal locker, they discovered something that instantly changed the investigation. A sealed envelope. Across the front, written in faded black ink, were 7 simple words. To the firefighter who arrives first. The envelope had been waiting there for more than 20 years, and no one knew who had left it. No one touched the envelope, not at first. It lay inside the rusted locker, covered in dust, untouched for what investigators estimated had been more than 2 decades. The paper had yellowed with age. The edges were brittle, yet the handwriting remained perfectly clear. To the firefighter who arrives first. The room fell silent. The lead investigator carefully placed the envelope inside a protective evidence sleeve. Hours later, it was opened inside the city's forensic laboratory. Every camera recorded the moment. Inside, there were only 3 things: a folded letter, an old photograph, and a brass fire station challenge coin from Station 18. The photograph showed 3 young firefighters standing beside an engine nearly 25 years earlier. Michael recognized them immediately. The first was Thomas Delaney. The second was Michael himself, 23 years younger, smiling on his first week after graduating from the academy. The third man was Captain Robert Hayes, Michael's father. No one in the room spoke. Michael had completely forgotten that photograph existed. Then he unfolded the letter. His father's handwriting covered both sides of the page. His hands began to shake before he even reached the first sentence. Michael, if you're reading this, then Thomas was right. Every investigator exchanged confused looks. Michael continued reading aloud. 23 years ago, Thomas discovered a design flaw that could kill firefighters if certain buildings were renovated incorrectly. He tried to warn the city. No one listened. We documented everything: inspection reports, structural drawings, engineering calculations. But before we could present the evidence, the warehouse collapsed. Thomas never came home. Michael stopped reading, his eyes filled with tears. The room remained completely silent. He took a deep breath and continued. Your mother always believed the truth would someday save someone. That's why we hid everything inside the safest place we could think of. A building no one planned to renovate. If that day ever comes, promise me one thing. Trust your training, even if the whole world calls you a coward. Michael lowered the paper. He couldn't continue. His father had written that letter years before his own death. He had never told Michael it existed. The investigators searched the rest of the locker. Behind a loose metal panel, they discovered dozens of original engineering reports. Every warning Harold Bennett had shown Michael had been documented more than 20 years earlier. The city had simply lost the records after departments merged and archives were relocated. Thomas Delaney had been telling the truth all along. The danger had been real. The flaw had existed for decades. The investigation board immediately reconvened. Within 48 hours, their conclusion was unanimous. Captain Michael Hayes had not violated protocol. He had applied advanced structural knowledge that prevented the deadliest firefighter tragedy in the city's history. The official report estimated that his decisions saved 23 firefighters, 6 police officers, 4 paramedics, more than 100 civilians standing near the collapse zone. The same television stations that had called him a coward now called him a hero. News vans surrounded his home. Reporters waited outside the fire station. Television producers offered exclusive interviews worth thousands of dollars. Michael declined every one of them. Instead, he quietly returned to Station 18 on a rainy Tuesday morning. No cameras had been invited. No politicians were present. Every firefighter in the station stood waiting. No speeches had been prepared. Battalion Chief Laura Simmons walked toward him. Without saying a word, she handed him his helmet. It had been cleaned, polished, and one small detail had been added. Inside the helmet, someone had written a single sentence, exactly the words his father had once written behind that old photograph. A hero's job is to bring everyone home. Michael smiled for the first time in weeks. Around him, every firefighter slowly raised a hand in salute. Not because the investigation had cleared his name, because they finally understood something deeper. Real courage isn't always running toward danger. Sometimes, real courage is standing your ground, making the decision everyone hates, and carrying the weight of that decision until the truth finally catches up. A month later, the city unveiled a memorial outside the rebuilt Westbrook Apartments. Most people expected it to honor the collapse. Instead, the monument bore 2 names: Captain Michael Hayes, Thomas Delaney. Beneath them, A bronze plaque carried words that every new firefighter in the city would read before their first shift. The bravest decision is not always the one the crowd applauds, it is the one that brings everyone home. Years later, every rookie assigned to Station 18 hears the story on their first day. Not as a lesson about a building, not as a lesson about engineering, but as a reminder that leadership often means making the right decision long before anyone else understands it. And whenever they pass the memorial, they notice something curious. Someone always leaves 2 fresh white roses at its base. No one has ever admitted doing it. Maybe it's a retired firefighter, maybe it's a grateful survivor, or maybe some promises never need a name. If this story stayed with you, let us know in the comments. What do you think defines a true hero? And don't forget to tell us asterisk, what city you're watching from. If you enjoy cinematic stories of courage, sacrifice, mystery, and unforgettable endings, asterisk, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because sometimes, the greatest heroes are the ones the world misunderstands first.